initiative, and it's actually twofold. We're going to be doing a paper and an annotated bibliography, and we're also going to be conducting a workshop. We're actually in the midst of a workshop right now that brings together high school and college librarians and teachers, and we revised curricula at the secondary level to improve college readiness from the library's perspective. And so we're just getting through some technical glitches here just to speed things along. The problem is that many students are coming into college and they are lacking information literacy skills, critical thinking skills, research skills, and we need to do a lot of catching up because professors often think that students have acquired these information literacy skills, these research skills, while they were in high school, but it actually impacts student retention. And so a group of people some time ago, and we're going to actually cover all of that once we get through the technology, came together and formed a committee that addressed college readiness from the library's perspective, where you bring together high school teachers and college professors, high school librarians and college librarians, and we sit for 5 two-hour workshops, and the high school teacher presents a unit, a curricular unit, where we infuse library skills, critical thinking skills, we enhance it, make it more robust in the interest of supporting college readiness. So what happens is a student will come in and they'll take a sociology class or an English class, and the professor just assumes that they know how to go to the library, they know how to evaluate information for its authenticity, its accuracy, its relevancy, its bias, its appropriateness. They know how to avoid plagiarism, and that's so far from the case. And so there's a great need. Information literacy is an extremely important lifelong skill that we want students to take away from the academic experience, and we are proposing that it should be taught as early in the academic experience as possible so that it prepares them for college and then, of course, the professional world. Okay, so that's what we want to go along with everything. So as soon as the technology, in the meantime, you've got some handouts. So if you take a look at Bronx Community College, we have a brochure that discusses the information literacy skills that we're talking about and that we try to impart onto our students. We call it Think with a Q. We market this to both faculty and students just so that they know the kinds of critical thinking that they should be doing by the time they get to college, by the time they graduate from college. We want them to be able to have these critical thinking skills, the ability to know the need for information, the ability to locate information and evaluate it for its authenticity, accuracy, relevancy, bias, so forth and so on. This is a tech conference, and so we thought it would be a good idea to list. We're probably not going to have enough time to demonstrate some of the databases that are available in the library to show how they support college readiness. But in the workshops, and we call it the Bronx Community College Library High School Collaborative, and we introduce the high school teachers to these databases and encourage them to utilize these databases to support both learning and instruction, and it's phenomenal. Also, this presentation, we are trying to show the world the role that the library plays in curriculum development, curriculum support. We're not just a service entity. People don't seem to realize that librarians, we're on the tenure track, we're considered professors also, and we also have to do all of the scholarly publication work that most professors also need to do. But we also want to show that the librarians play an important role in curriculum development, in collaboration, and we also support learning communities. So I'll come back to the handout in just a second. What I'll do is I will try to make this a lightning round by reading through the scripts. Okay, so in the abstract, and again, this is part of paper and the group work that we're actually doing, and we're actually in the midst of the workshops. So many students enter college lacking the necessary research and critical thinking skills needed for academic success. There is a strong body of literature that indicates that information literacy instruction at the high school level does support college readiness. I am the first-year seminar library liaison, and so I encounter many students who are in their first year of college and they don't know how to do research or think critically. The authors, we discuss the importance of collaborating or collaborative curriculum development, which is what the workshop is. We're collaborating with our high school counterparts to enhance curriculum at the secondary level. We discuss the role that academic libraries play in supporting college readiness, And the research that we're doing, we're going to develop an annotated bibliography, and we're going to cite successful high school and college partnerships, curriculum development initiatives, because they're actually happening all over the country, but it just needs to take place more. Secondary information literacy instruction, and professional development, because these workshops, it's just the faculty that we're working with. It's a teach, where we have a learning community, and it's professional development that supports pedagogy. And of course, as I mentioned before, it's a tech conference, so we hope to, we wanted to demonstrate some of the databases that are listed in the handout, but all of those databases that are listed there are fantastic resources for supporting college readiness. Okay, so the goals of this project: to implement a professional development collaborative where high school teachers and college professors and librarians work to revise and align curriculum that supports college readiness, as I've indicated. We want to establish a professional and ongoing relationship between Bronx Community College librarians and our subject faculty who come from the high schools. So we have a number of high schools that feed into Bronx Community College, and we want to make this project permanent, exemplar, and ongoing and sustainable. We want it to be able to work on its own and continue the strong lines of communication from the library's perspective. So there are many college prep programs that are in existence, but there are not very many that speak from the library's perspective, and that's what we're doing with this. Obviously, developing communities of practice, and so if myself and Professor St. Hilaire, who's a chemistry professor, I learn from him, he learns from me, I get to support his teaching and his students. He has a Blackboard page. He can give me space on his Blackboard page where I could post LibGuides, research scaffolds, things that will help students along throughout his class with the research process, extremely important. And then there's several other communities of practice. As I indicated, bring to light the role of libraries and librarians as curriculum supporters. And then, of course, we want to provide a collaborative model for high school teachers and college professors to collaborate. So every workshop is not going to be identical, and this has taken place from back in 2010. And these workshops, the information that's generated grows organically, but the model is what we are implementing. And we'd like for it to be ongoing. So let's talk about the collaborative, which is the Bronx Community College Library High School Collaborative. Everyone involved must have an interest in college readiness, okay? So there's a high school librarian and a college librarian, and we work with a high school teacher and a college professor. The high school teacher will present their unit of instruction, and the college professor will share their syllabi, and we get to chew it up, spit it out, talk about all the successes and challenges of teaching and what we want to do to improve college readiness in students. We have somebody to document everything because there's reports. Every workshop is recorded. And then we also have a facilitator because it's group work and we need a facilitator to help us stay on track time-wise. Okay, and so that's the actual team. That's the general model. Those are the participants. And for each iteration, it's going to be a different set of teachers from both the high school and a different librarian from the high school, as well as the college. Okay.
Okay. We're talking about a community of practice. Yeah. This is a relationship which we have between myself as a professor, Carl as a librarian, and the high school teacher, and as well as the feeder high schools that's coming from BCC. And the name for our models, we call it the Bronx Community College Library High School Collaborative Models.
Okay, so the way this generally works, the 5 workshops, because they're 5 2-hour workshops. In the first workshop, we share and discuss educational values and challenges, similarities, what the high school teachers face, what the college professors face. We get to break down those walls and there's more transparency, and we identify those common goals. In the second workshop, we identify practices that address synthesized challenges, and we begin talking about the high school unit. It could be social studies, it can be English language arts, it can be from art. But it's a high school unit that's currently being implemented, or the high school teacher hopes to implement it at some point. We identify revision opportunities within the unit, and we met for the 3rd time yesterday, and that's what we began talking about. What can we do to enhance this curricular unit? Right? So the librarians, we have all types of scaffolds. There's a research paper organizer in your handout That's one of the things that we use because of many of our students, they need guidance with the writing portion of it. And of course, a part of information literacy does involve writing and the ability to write and infuse new knowledge into your research. For the fourth workshop, we design concrete activities and materials. We have reading logs. We will develop annotated bibliographies for students, give suggested readings, and give as much input as we possibly can. And then for the fifth workshop, we have now a revised curricular unit, which we hope the high school teacher will then take back to the students and give them exposure to these new ways of thinking about a particular subject, and in hopes that these students will eventually feed into Bronx Community College that have had exposure to this revised curriculum. So the goals, obviously, we want to, in addition to the work that we're doing, we want to impart onto the teacher, the high school teacher and librarian, that when they're developing their curricular units, we want to instill effective habits of mind, okay, because students have poor note-taking skills, time management skills, personal discipline and character. We want to help students develop skills of critical reading, thinking, and arguing. We want to communicate high standards and expectations. We want to provide clear and consistent criteria for what constitutes success in an assignment, and that doesn't always mean the same thing for each group. Break large assignments into component parts, provide additional support to students who are developing foundational, knowledgeable skills, and promote collaborative learning, because that's extremely important, and it's sometimes known as the most joyous kind.
Okay, my role in the project is to do what? I sit down with the community of practice. I sit down with the community. The teacher show me the units. I analyze the unit with the teacher. I try to make the units stronger for when the students come into BCC, they can apply all the skills. And as a chemistry teacher, one thing that I notice some of the students, when they are coming to us, they're not prepared. Therefore, because they're not prepared, the chance for them to graduate is very low. That means if the chance for them to graduate is very low, the retention rate is going to be very low. On the other hand, some of the students who are facing the skills, for example, get exposed to the library, know how to write a paper, they have a higher chance to graduate.
Right. Okay. That's you.
And also a strong relationship. What I have right now with Carl and the project that we have, I have a strong relationship with Carl. I can send my students to Carl and I say, find Carl in the library and ask Carl help about my assignment. At the same time, we want to have this. We want to have a strong relationship between the high school librarians, because that's the first time the student will get exposed to that. We reinforce that with the high school. When they come to college, it's become like a second nature. They know exactly what to do. In other words, by sharing my syllabus with the high school librarians, he or she is able to develop something that we want to do. And information literacy, we can promote college readiness.
And that brochure, the Think brochure, they can use that as a start for developing a rubric. All right, so the history of this, as I mentioned before, a team of educators from both CUNY and the Department of Education came together and thought we need to have these conversations. So the model that we're using, the New York City Department of Education and CUNY, they both have library systems, right? And they came together to work on issues related to information literacy instruction, right? College readiness, and forming communities of practice between the two institutions. So we now have a permanent line of communication with DeWitt Clinton High School, which is not too far from here, actually. There's a librarian there who's a part of our collaborative, and that's going to be ongoing. Even after we stop the work, she'll be bringing students over as a group, working with her faculty, so forth and so on. In 2012, that group of people, the original group, they started it at the College of Staten Island, and they partnered with one of their top feeder high schools. And they had teachers from history, science, and English, and of course there was a high school librarian and a college librarian there. That turned out to be a successful endeavor. In 2013, they took it to City College, and they partnered with their top feeder high school, which is the A. Philip Randolph High School, which is right on their campus. Those subjects addressed were English, film studies. That was also another successful endeavor. Then they brought it to Bronx Community College, and because I was already familiar with it and had an interest in K-12 college readiness, I became the college librarian for that iteration. And Professor St. Hilaire was the college professor, and we had a STEM high school teacher from the DeWitt Clinton campus, She's no longer there, but she brought an earth science unit, and we revised it and did a lot of fantastic things. But she left, and we weren't able to expose the students to this revised curriculum. But it was still, the lines of communication are still strong and ongoing, hence the New Clinton librarian is still with us and communicates with us on a regular basis. So me and Dave went on, and they did it at Hostos Community College, they did it at York College, and all of their feeder high schools. They did it at New York City Tech, and they're also doing it at Borough of Manhattan Community College. In the meantime, myself and Dickens, we wrote a grant, and people at Bronx Community College, they were impressed, and they gave us funding to develop the Bronx Community College Library High School Collaborative. And hence we are, as I said, we're in the 3rd iteration right now, and we have 2 more to go. And this is where we are. And we're presenting this work, and we're hoping that this information spreads, not just locally, but nationally as well, because we know that high school libraries are either being closed, or there's not a librarian, and there's not enough of this instruction that's happening, and it needs to be addressed. Okay. So there's this organization called the Association of College and Research Libraries, and they're a division of the American Library Association, and they are the authoritative body for all things information literacy. So for college, everything that you see in that brochure, the ability for students to, when they're in college, by the time they graduate, they should know how to evaluate information, again, for its authenticity, its accuracy, its relevancy, its appropriateness, its bias, how to use it legally and ethically, how to synthesize new content into it. That's all of this summed up. I just basically just told you those are the information literacy standards for higher education, and that comes from the ACRL. And then for New York State, there's something called the Empire State Priority Benchmark Skills for information fluency and inquiry. So the models are there, the tools are there, the resources are there in K-12. If your campus had a library at the high school level, he or she would already know this, okay? But they don't have time to implement it in instruction. And unless the high school teachers are making an effort to collaborate with the library so that he or she can infuse these skills into the curriculum, we won't have success. So ideally, 12th graders should be able to explore problems or questions. I have a 5-minute warning here. Challenges ideas in text and makes notes of questions to pursue, builds frameworks to synthesize ideas gathered from multiple sources, develops their own point of view, so forth. I'm speeding through this right now, but these skill sets, they're all online. If you work, and I know that we have people here who are presenting after us who work in a high school, this information is available to you all online. All right, so
okay, we have 5 minutes out. Those are the goals of our program as well as the method, because we don't have too much time, so pretty much we're just going to go over it.
So what we'll do is just, we document for the methodology to indicate success is we document the reports that are generated, we interview participants, we interview students, we interview faculty, and the information that we gather from that, we'll go into a paper and we'll use it as evidence that it is an effective means of teaching pedagogical skills. The learning communities, obviously librarians in college, high schools, there are high school librarians and high school teachers working together. Those are learning communities. The high school librarians and the high school subject teachers, the college professors and the college librarians, such as myself and Professor St. Hilaire, and these different learning communities grow the wall. There's more transparency about what's going on pedagogically. And of course, we all have an interest of not only students getting prepared for college, but once they get to college, they are doing well. And then,
okay, those are the challenges that we're facing. To make it quick, one of the challenges is to follow the students from high schools to where they are coming. If they're coming to our schools, and that's number one. The other challenges that we are facing is to bring all the participants together. For example, myself, calls and other libraries.
And then of course money and participants, people who are willing to participate. All right, so the databases. EBSCOhost, some of you may be familiar with it. It's perhaps one of the best databases to teach information literacy instruction. It's designed for the novice researcher, as many of our high school students are and college freshmen are. When they hear scholarly peer-reviewed journals, obviously this is where you get your scholarly information, and we want to let students know that this is where you go. I love it, I use it quite often because a student can actually teach themselves. CQ Researcher, it's a social science database that indexes phenomenal, in-depth reports that are made up of primary sources, thought-provoking questions, charts, graphs, pros and cons, their bibliographies, a fantastic tool to encourage critical thinking. World Book Encyclopedia, most of us have grown up with those. The online version is phenomenal. There's an entire information literacy component in World Book. Cengage Learning, many of you are already familiar with Gale databases, opposing viewpoints, Gale Virtual Reference Library, a phenomenal tool for teaching and learning, but especially for students because the more they read, the better they write, and we need them to be able to read nonfiction critically, objectively, and I've always been a big fan of encyclopedias. Learning Express Library is a phenomenal database. I love that word, phenomenal. You can practice for civil service tests. You can practice for the ACT, the SAT, advanced placement in real time. You can practice for if you want to be going to law enforcement, if you want to go into nursing. It is the most essential research tool that both a library, both public libraries and academic libraries, and you'll look in your handout, Prep Step, they made a version of Learning Express Library just for the 2-year school. If you have library cards with the public library, you can invite a group of a librarian from the public library to talk about Learning Express Library. It doesn't cost anything to have a library card. Once your students and teachers discover Learning Express Library, they're going to be like, why didn't anyone tell us about this before? I just can't speak enough about it. In Grolier, scholastic.com, it's made up of several encyclopedias that are specialized, and the readings are Lexile, fantastic teaching tool. I mean, if I were to come to your high school, Fannie Lou Hamer is what it's called, and I mean, I could actually demonstrate this. Your teachers will absolutely love it because there are all types of scaffolds that they could use to teach your content, especially for our IEP students, and those who work in K-12 know what IEP is. All right, are there any questions? We hoped to be able to demonstrate some of these databases, but we have a sign-in sheet. You're going to pass that around. If you are interested in more of our content, more of this discussion, please leave us your email, and we will share this because this line of communication needs to happen, and the fact that we have people from the K-12 world here, that's really important to us. Okay, questions? Yes?